Hey there everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. So as you may have seen from my last video, just in case you didn't watch it, yes, I'm here, I'm still alive, I didn't die, still making booktube videos. I just had some life changes, some job transitions, and a little bit less time to read, but that just means more time to think about making excellent booktube content for you folks. So thanks for being super patient with me as I took another month-long hiatus from making videos. So now that we are heading into probably the best season of the year, the autumn, I know that recently it's actually become pretty trendy to have that as your favorite season, but I feel like that was not the case when I was a kid. I feel that maybe the Starbucks push marketing of the pumpkin spice latte has had something to do with that. Has had something to do with the elevation of coziness and warmth and spice and snuggling and fluffy socks in our culture. I'm going off on a tangent. What I really wanted to make this video about was a couple of books that are on my fall TBR. Another reason why I didn't sit down to actually make a video last month is that I just didn't really read very much. I read I think one really good, outstanding book, and that was Nevernight by J. Kristoff. But that was a longer book, and it did take me quite some time to finish, so that was pretty much the bulk of my interesting reads for the month of August. And I didn't really feel like making a video talking about just one single book that I read. So anyway, moving forward with that, I wanted to make this video a little like autumn TBR, some books that I'm looking forward to reading as we head into changing seasons and you start spending more time kind of curled up cozily with a cup of tea, as I usually do. And so let's go ahead and get into the books. Some of these I've purchased recently. They're fairly new releases, most of them, but the first one that I am most excited to read is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is book 2 of, I guess, what is now being called the Winter Night trilogy. The first one was The Bear and the Nightingale, which I read last winter and I really enjoyed. And it is heavily inspired by Russian myth, fairy tale, and folklore. And I really enjoyed the first book. This was such a great, cozy fantasy read that actually did one of the best jobs of making winter and cold personified an amazing character. I think that this book is right up there with the short story To Build a Fire by Jack London in terms of how the author writes about the winter and the cold and how dangerous it is and fearsome it is and what an experience it is to actually encounter the truly cold. So super looking forward to this. Next up is a book that was actually recommended to me by Bree, the Bookish Goddess. I will link her information down below. She has a YouTube channel, but I think she's primarily active on Instagram currently, and she blogs a lot about romance reading. And so this one was one that I picked up at her recommendation. It's called Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton, and it is one of my favorites. The parallel storytelling between somebody that is living through the past and then someone that's living through the future, and they're linked stories and they're happening at the same time. And I know about this book, other than the first chapter, which I read and really enjoyed the writing, is that it is about, the past chapters are about a group of sisters that are living in Cuba right around the time of the revolution when Castro comes to power, and then the present day, or the more future chapters, are told from the perspective of. So yeah, and then the second point of view is from the perspective of one of those sisters' descendants, who is now in modern day returning to Cuba because her grandmother's last wish was that her ashes be scattered back home in Cuba. So that is all I know about this book. This is something that is really interesting to me as I grew up in Florida, and Cuban culture is a big part of the culture there because there are so many people that came from Cuba, especially to South Florida, during the Revolution period and the Cold War period and whatnot. So I am very excited to read this. I think it will be fun. Next up is a book that I just found in the bargain book section of my local bookstore, and that is Fanny and Stella, The Young Men Who Shocked Victorian England by Neil McKenna. This is a nonfiction book about two, well, I don't really know what we would say or how they would describe their own genders in present day, but two people that were assigned male at birth that went around Victorian London to different music halls and theaters and things like that, dressed and adopting like the names and mannerisms of two women, Fanny and Stella. And it wasn't really discovered that this was some sort of like disguise, at least according to the terminology of the day, until they were actually arrested in a kind of like police cracking down on the moral laxness of theaters. And so it was a huge trial and a huge sensation at the time. I had actually never heard of these two folks before, Fanny or Stella. I'm trying to read more queer nonfiction for that very reason, and also this book was super cheap, so I thought, why the heck not? Okay, I also have another nonfiction book here, and that is called Factfulness: 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think, by Hans Rosling. I actually ended up picking this up because it was on the Bill Gates recommended reading list of the books that he's been reading recently. Normally I don't read something just because it's on one of those lists. However, I do read the lists of people whose like opinions and thoughts I think are interesting or important. So I picked this up because it sounded interesting and because of who was recommending it. It's basically about how to think critically about data that you consume, think critically about media that you consume. I mean, I realized I was literally trained to do this in school, majoring in English and being in graduate school for English for a while, so I feel like this might be a little bit of repetition, but I am going to read it regardless, especially because it is just such a point of conversation right now, is like, how do we tell fake news from real, and how do we think critically about the things that we consume? Yeah, just curious right there. And then the final book that I am looking forward to reading this autumn is The Descent of Monsters by J.Y. Yang. This is the third book in their Tensorate novella series, only about, it's actually a murder mystery. Ooh, fascinating. Yeah, see, I picked this up a while ago and I never actually bothered to check what the book was about. That is how crazy busy this life has been for me recently. So those are all of the books that at present I would really like to read during the autumn months. Do you have any, like, I don't know, autumnal reading traditions? Do you find that your reading tastes change at all with the seasons? I know mine definitely do. I know that's why I saved, for instance, The Girl in the Tower to read until autumn, because I was like, you know what, this is going to be the perfect book for autumn. I'm going to totally be craving reading this story now, and I just didn't feel right reading it, you know, during spring or summer, even though I already had the book. I was like, no, you know what, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to pace myself. I'm going to enjoy this when it is the right season. I am also planning on making a more like autumnal and autumn holiday themed book tag later, so I realize a lot of people probably get in the mood to read like scary stories, especially around the Halloween season and stuff like that. So fear not, I will be making some videos about that as well. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about these books that I'm gonna be checking out. Let me know if you have any like reading traditions or reading tastes that change with the seasons. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That would be absolutely lovely of you. Thank you very much. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.